Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my great privilege to introduce you to our third honoree for the evening. Sheryl WuDunn is an author, lecturer, and businesswoman. She has an impressive list of firsts. The first Asian American to win a Pulitzer Prize, and half of the first married couple ever to receive a Pulitzer for journalism, which she won along with her husband, Nicholas Kristof, for their reporting from Beijing about the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989. Sheryl has also had a diversity in her career that is really quite breathtaking. She's been an energy specialist and has worked extensively on alternative energy issues. She's been the anchor of a nightly news program, a private wealth advisor for Goldman Sachs, and a staff foreign correspondent for the New York Times. But we honor her here tonight for her latest accomplishment, which has been to co-author, again with her husband, the book titled Half the Sky, Turning Oppression into Opportunity for Women Worldwide. Now, this is a book that is very hard to read. I confessed I had a lot of difficulty getting through the chapter that describes the problems of fistula. Sex trafficking and forced prostitution, gender-based violence, maternal mortality. Sheryl and her husband convey the horror of these conditions by telling stories of the women and girls undergoing them. But instead of just documenting or lamenting these horrors, they go one step further and focus on solutions. Solutions such as girls' education and microfinance. And they show exactly why these solutions work. The chapter on microcredit features a client of WWB's network member in Pakistan, the Kosh Foundation. It provides powerful anecdotal evidence of a phenomenon that we've seen around the world and heard from Albaluz tonight. When a woman starts to earn and is seen as a productive contributor to the household, the level of domestic violence against her decreases. Sheryl WuDunn and Nicholas Kristof say, and I'm quoting from the book, "Microfinance has done more to bolster the status of women and to protect them from abuse than any laws could accomplish. Half the Sky is at once a savage indictment of gender inequality in the developing world, and at the same time an inspiring testament to women's courage and resilience. We honor Sheryl tonight for giving voice to ordinary women caught in extraordinary situations and for forcing the rest of us to pay attention." Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Sheryl WuDunn.
Well, I have to say that Albaluz is a really hard act to follow. And in fact, it is people like her that reason that we wrote Half the Sky. So the entrepreneur from the Amazon, let's salute her one more time, please. But really, it is institutions like Women's World Banking that actually have made this so possible, and that's actually why we are so happy. I'm so happy to be here to highlight and underscore and celebrate the achievements of WWB. But I also would like to say that I hope that this is just the beginning. I really do. In fact, my husband and I, as we were writing Half the Sky, we really came to believe that this is the cause of our time, gender inequity and the brutality that so many people face around the world because of their gender. That really is the moral challenge of this century. And if you don't think that that's really the case, let me just throw one statistic out at you. I will not belabor you with statistics, but think about the discrimination that exists in most of the developing world, such that, as demographers have said, there are 60 million to 100 million missing females in the world. You know, here in the United States, in the developed world, there are more women because we have equal access to health care just alongside men, but it's not true in the developing world. But you know what WWB does with microfinance really is something so important. It's just they've broken so many paths, and I just want to highlight a story. Mary Ellen mentioned CASH, but I'd like to highlight a story that illustrates what CASH has done. There was a woman named Saima, and she actually lives in a village outside Lahore, Pakistan. You know, at the beginning of the time of the story, she was beaten every single day by her husband. He was unemployable. He was a gambler and didn't have any prospects for getting a job. And when she had her second daughter, the mother-in-law turned to her son and said, "You better get a second wife because Simon's never going to get you a son." There really was a son preference. Just so happens at that time, Cash was in the village and gave Sima a tiny little loan, $65. And she took that money and she said, "Well, you know, I can do some embroidery. Why don't I just start an embroidery business?" And like Albaluz, she started an embroidery business, and the embroidery was really well received. The merchants started asking for more, and she couldn't produce it all, so she hired other women in the village. Pretty soon she hired 30 women in the village, and when she was producing, they were producing so much embroidery, they needed someone to help transport the goods from the village to the marketplace, and so she hired her husband. So now there is no such talk of a second wife, and it is a really happy story because now Sima not only has 2 girls, but she had a 3rd girl. They're all in private school, again, like Albaluz's kids, in private school, and they are at the top of their class, and they are learning English. So they may make their way to New York as well. But really, the idea that I think WWB conveys here tonight is that each one of us can make a difference. We sometimes get overwhelmed by just the vastness of the problem. 60 million, 100 million missing women, and because of lethal discrimination. But I want to underscore that each one of you can make a difference. And let me tell you just a little parable that really explains why I think this is the case. And it's a little bit hokey, so please bear with me, but it's a Hawaiian parable. And it starts with a boy. He's walking down a beach, and the beach is just laden with starfish, just all over, just covered with starfish. He picks up a starfish, throws it back into the water, picks up another starfish, throws it back into the water. Along comes a man, looks at the boy and says, "Boy, you're crazy. There's just no way you can make a difference. Look at all these starfish." The boy looks at him, picks up another starfish, throws it back into the water and says, "It made a big difference to that one." So that's exactly why you can make a difference. And then some of you may be asking, well, why me? What's in it for me? There are very few things in life that actually, once we have all of our material needs satisfied, and every one of you sitting in this, glorious room having a wonderful dinner has most of your material needs satisfied, researchers say that there are very few things that can actually elevate your level of happiness. One of them is contributing to a cause larger than yourself. And another thing, I'd like to close with this one other story that explains why I think there's something in it for you. It's the story of a friend who was in Darfur, and she was an aid worker there. She saw things that no one should see. And the entire time she was very strong. She, held her peace of mind, and she never broke down. She really kept continuing, kept working. She came back to the U.S. for Christmas and was in her grandmother's backyard. And she saw something there that just made her break down in tears. And what she saw was a bird feeder. And it made her realize that she had the good fortune to be born in a country that takes security for granted. where we have such wealth that we can clothe, feed, and house ourselves, and even make sure that wild birds do not go hungry in the winter. She also realized that with that good fortune came great responsibility. So like her, you, me, we have won the lottery of life. So the question is, how do we discharge that responsibility? So I hope that you all will join the movement, take this cause, feel happier, and help save the world. Thank you.